When did your family move to Point Claire? Do you know? Do you remember?
April 1954.
Holy smokes, you really remember? Well, why do you
3
remember?
houses away.
3 houses away?
Next street,
What was
Michigan.
this? Michigan.
Yeah.
First owners.
Yes.
Okay, so
Origin-
how did that happen? Because did they have to go see like a show house or a model house, and then how did that happen?
Yeah, the model houses were here on Sunnyside. This was a model house at that time, and my parents decided to buy. They moved in April, first week of April, 1954.
Coming from?
St. Anne de Bellevue.
Oh. You were born in St. Anne de Bellevue?
No, I was born in Montreal at what is now, or geez, that hospital has just been torn down.
Children's.
The Children's, but that was part of the Montreal General.
That's
And
right.
then spent 4 or 5 months in Hudson with my grandparents. And because I was a loudmouth baby, my parents decided to get out, and they moved to St. Anne's. Lived right next to the locks, the convent, Catholic church. Had some nice memories there. And then they moved here.
What was the why not stay in St. Anne de Bellevue? Do you know why have to move all the way out here? What was the appealing? What do you think was appealing about coming out here?
I think my parents wanted a house, wanted their own home. This was a first-time house for them. So we moved from a big apartment to a house. My brother and I each had our own room after that, and
So in 1954, what would have been the options really to move somewhere? What would have been available at that time if they wanted to stay in the West Island?
that's a good question. Because 1954, the West Island was starting to develop. This section is all new, the other section is older. I don't remember what was in Beaconsfield or Baderfe, Beaurepaire, nothing like that. But I guess my dad must have seen these being built. He used to ride the commuter train back and forth to work 6 days a week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in those days you worked Saturday morning till noon.
And you were how old when you moved into the house?
Why do you want to know that? Yeah, I was 8 years old. My 8th birthday was a week after we moved in.
So your earliest of memories of moving into this brand new house, now you have grass all around you. Do you remember what the demographics were like when you first moved here? Were there other kids in the street? Was it a populated area?
Yeah, by the time all the houses were filled, Halloween, for instance, there must have been 200 kids on these 2 streets, Sunnyside and Michigan. 200 kids, at least 200 kids.
You mean who walked the streets, who came, or who lived
Yep,
here?
no, who lived here on these 2 streets. We'd have street parties once a month.
I mean, these 2 streets are not that big.
No, 21 houses on each street. But nobody came here with less than 2 kids. There's houses where they had 5 and 6 kids, so it didn't take long to get 200 kids.
And the age of these kids would have all been roughly...
Preschool, elementary school. The odd person might have been a teenager, but not that many. Not that many.
Okay, so tell me about these. Okay, for me, in my perspective, the 80s was a great era still for kids, and there's a lot of young families and stuff, but I can't even conceptualize the amount of kids that existed in your day. Try to paint a picture a little bit of what that was like. I mean, was there constant kids in the street? Was there constant, I mean, you must have ruled the streets.
Yeah, well, we had our gangs, if you would, you stayed around home. You had your fun. Our playground was terracotta. In those days, the brickyards was still here. So the fields that you see now, which is Terracotta Park, not the park itself, but the wooded area and the fields, The Y used to have skiing up there, ski lessons. Crazy, but they had ski lessons. The houses at the end of Belmont, they weren't there. The Ash Grove apartments, they weren't there. None of that stuff was here. So that was our playground in there.
And it wasn't wooded.
No, it was field. It was field. But there were woods. The terracotta woods were still there. Nice big creek ran through there, and it still does, but it's changed. It's not quite the same.
Well, it's organized now.
Oh, is that what you call it?
Now they have, now it's like the way they have the stones
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
It's
They've cleaned it up to allow the population to go in there. Yeah. But it's still nice. It's still nice to have that in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Really good.
so. Let's say when you started to get around 10, 11 years old, how would you have spent like a nice summer weekend? What would you guys do?
A summer weekend?
Yeah, let's say with your friends, it's the weekend, or it's the weekday because it's summertime. Maybe try to explain what would be an average day.
An average day. Well, get up in the morning, deliver the Gazettes. I was 12, I guess. Yeah. Deliver the Gazettes in the morning. Fool around with the buddies. Take your bike and go for a ride somewhere. Do whatever. Go to the park. Vawa Park. Yeah. Anyways, we'd have fun playing with the other kids from Vawa. Come home around 3 o'clock. Deliver the Montreal Star. Yeah. To the same people that you delivered the Gazette to in the morning. And they weren't little papers. They were big papers in those days. Yeah. Used to deliver the whole 4 streets. Laurelwood too.
How long did you have that gig for?
Oh, I kept that paper route about 4 years. Yeah, about 4 years. And then they split it on me. They said it was too many for one person, so they made 2 routes out of it. In the meantime, they had built the new houses on Belmont and Glen Lynn, and I snuck in there and got that. They gave that section to another person. So, but then they said, we can't deliver the papers to your house anymore. You've got to go to a depot. And I said, well, that's very nice. The truck's got to go by my house to get to that depot, and if you're not going to drop them off, find somebody else. So I gave that up.
So it sounded like you desperately wanted to make as much money as possible.
Oh,
What was the reason? Why did you need the money in those days? To spend on what? And where? Or did you just want to, was it to attract the girls? You had the money? What was the point? I mean, you lived with your parents. What did you need all that money for?
You say it's money, and I know my kids are the same way. The News and Chronicle was the Lakeshore News. I delivered that too, once a week, Thursdays. It was 7 cents a paper. So go knock on somebody's door at the end of the month. You owe me for 4 weeks, 28 cents. You get 30 cents. Wow. The next month, it's 5 weeks, 35 cents. A lot of times it was a straight 35 cents. You got 1 penny for every paper that you delivered. 1 cent. You didn't become a millionaire overnight. The Montreal Star was a little more. They gave you a little more, especially on the weekends, because they had all kinds of inserts.
Yeah. TV
But
guy.
you did. I don't know how the guys do it today, but they didn't have a route of 100. They got 300 and 400 papers they got to deliver in the morning, and that. Well, they don't do them at night anymore, but they're getting better money than what we did.
So
You didn't make a fortune,
let's just say.
but a quart of milk was 17 cents.
That's right. And a movie would have cost less than $1, I'm sure.
Oh, less than $1. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So you got the money. You got a little bit saved up in your jar or wherever you would have put it in those days. What would you have used on the money? What would you have used? What would you have bought? What was it just candy?
I was into model trains. Model trains. Yeah, model trains. That's what I did. model trains. I'd go down to Ted's hobby shop. It was there. It's one of the originals down there. And I'd get a kit and spend my time building it. Friends of mine were building cars. Others were building airplanes. I stuck with railroad stuff.
The school that you went to Valois or St. John Fisher?
No. Originally, I went to Lakeside Heights.
Must have been brand spanking new.
No, it wasn't that new. I started school in April of '54. Grade 3. Graduated out of grade 3 and went back for grade 4. And the biggest thing of those year and a half that I was there was the building of the water tower. We sat in class. Teacher would be up there and we could see out the window and they were building the water tower.
And that's why you failed grade 4.
Okay. I better be quiet. No, I won't say anything. No. Then they rezoned everything and we ended up going for the rest of the elementary years to Valois Park. Grade 5 was at the old Valois Park school. 6 and 7 were in a school you probably don't even know of, but it was still part of Valois Park School, which is now the Pointe Claire Library on the corner of Valois Bay and Belmont. Grade 6 and 7 were in that school.
Grade 5 was where, you said?
5 was in the what is still Valois Park, or John Fisher Jr. as it's called now. Yeah.
And it's because the high schools at that time didn't do 7?
No, grade 7 was in elementary.
So Cedar Park would have had the same thing?
Yes, they all did.
Cedar Park went up to 7?
Yep.
Okay. So...
you only had 4 years in high school. But in those days you could have gone 5 because they had grade 12.
This is no CJEP. To get your prerequisites, right?
No, grade 12 was... we didn't have CJEP.
Right.
So you went to grade 12 and you could get credits towards first year.
Depending on what you were going to get
Yes,
into.
depending on what you were going into.
Right. So now I guess for me it would be the same as if I wanted to do like biology was an option, chemistry was an option.
In high school?
In high school.
Yeah.
But we didn't do it because I was an artsy fartsy kid.
Yeah. All the sciences were options. But in our day, you did... all the options were 2 years in one.
Right.
So when we graduated, you needed 11 credits. We graduated with 13 credits. Because we took 10 and 11 courses in grade 10, and then you took 2 more in grade 11. So you ended up with 2 extra classes.
That school that you did grade 5, grade 6 and 7, Valois.
Yeah, Valois Park.
Do you remember like walking into that school and thinking this is what an old...
Oh, it's an old building.
Did it seem back then? Did it seem?
Oh, it was old. It was old.
Because it seems like the picture you're painting is that everything, with the exception of some areas of Valois, everything was fairly new.
Yeah.
There probably wasn't even that much vegetation. Like you didn't have big trees back then.
Yeah,
or
well,
anything like that.
You had, the poplars were pretty big and the willows were big, but the rest of the trees, yes, you're right. They would have been torn down to build the houses and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But Valois Park School, I had grade 6 and 7. But it's a small world. My grade 7 teacher started off as Miss, and before the year was over, it was Mrs. And she taught Shane when he was in elementary school as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, she must have started very fairly young.
She was young. Oh, yeah, she was young. Yeah, she lived on Valois Bay, too.
And when she saw another Fuller, did she roll her eyes back then?
Yeah, we had some good times in those days, yes.
But that's interesting that they put you in the 6s and 7s. They had your own building. It must have
Yep,
been
our own building, 5 classrooms.
Yeah, and then was there a gym still in the basement?
No, we had to go to gym in the elementary school, Valois Park. So we'd walk. Teacher would walk us over. We'd take our gym and then walk all the way back. Get back in, and we had our own playground, but play baseball and see how many windows we could get a home run on.
So you got a school bus from your house to bring you into elementary school in those days, or did you walk?
No, we walked. We walked. There was a bus. Yeah, we had to walk up to Belmont and get the old Butterbox bus and take it to Lakeside Heights. Yeah, but we didn't get a bus for Vawa. We were too close. And then they put us back on the bus to go to John Rennie.
Now, John Rennie you started in grade 8.
Grade 8, John
And
Rennie.
this is so what year would you have started John Rennie?
Six, 59, 60. Rennie was 3 or 4 years old at the time, the building.
So explain a little bit what it was like to go to high school in those days. Like extracurriculars, was it very strict?
You mean school was strict? Yes, it was strict. Yeah. We had Latin classes if you wanted. But Latin was a dead language, killed all the Romans, and wasn't going to kill us. So we didn't take that. But no, we had some elderly teachers, and they ruled the roost. Oh yeah.
Was the principal at the time, was he Chrome Dome? Was that the name that he...
That was a name that was associated with, his name was right on the tip of my tongue until you said that. Yeah. But the principal I remember is Patch, Mr. Patch at Rennie. And then when I took a year at Lindsay as well, and that was Clowater, Mr. Clowater. Patch was, he was a different principal, the old-fashioned principal that you see on the old TV shows, you know. It's, yeah.
What was the lunch hours like? Were you allowed to leave the campus in those days?
Yeah, you were allowed to leave, but for 35 cents you got a meal. 35 cents, you buy your tickets once a week. You get a ticket, you go and line up in the corridor, and only so many people could go in at a time into the cafeteria. Only because it was cafeteria style and it took too long to serve everybody. And you'd get a full course meal, dessert, 35 cents. 35 cents. You
Where
know,
was the cafeteria in those days?
downstairs. And if you go in the front door, down the stairs,
Yeah.
there was a cafeteria down there.
Oh, okay.
I'm told that they converted a lot of it into the home economics because they had the kitchen down there.
In my day, there was a teacher's lounge, I think, down there.
A who?
I think there was a teacher's lounge down there, and I think the entrance to go to the
Yeah, but
changing room.
when you went to Rennie, they had all the extensions on it.
Yeah.
Well, we only had 4 floors. And you walk in the front door, you go up the flight of stairs to the offices, then you keep going to the 3rd, 4th floor, whatever it was, and that was the balconies to the gym. The balconies. There were classrooms along there too. Yeah, and then you had the 2 wings. Well, one wing went straight out, and one went to St. John's. That was where your technical drawing, your industrial arts, home economics were on the ground floor. And then upstairs was your biology, chemistry labs up there.
So in those days, would you ever bike to school in those days?
Oh, yeah. Ride the bike through Terracotta Woods. Why not? We had a trail. We knew where to go.
And then after school, what was if you weren't going to come straight home, did you hang out anywhere? Did you go anywhere?
Oh, yeah.
Where was the hot spots?
My mother would leave me notes. She had a habit of making sure that I would do what I was told to do. She'd write a note and put it between the slices of bread. So when you bit in, oh, geez, what's this? A piece of paper. Don't forget your haircut. You know, so I'd stop at LF.
Where was your barber in those days?
It was what is now LF down there in the mall. It was
Mike Mastro's
Mike
barber?
Mastro, and Dino was the barber that I went to. Dino had just come in from Italy.
Yeah.
He opened up his own barber shop twice in Vawa, 3 times in Vawa, once in Pine Beach. Followed him. Nick, who's working at LF now, I hope. When he went down there and Dino retired, I went with Nick. So back to where I used to be.
And now you're there.
I go for Nick, yeah.
So, from 1954 to today, you really like stayed in this area. You haven't. Did you ever move out and come back, or?
I had 1 year after high school in Dorval, the apartments, which is now a hotel, right behind what was Mr. Donut, which is now, I should know it, the pub. Can't remember the name of it, but there's a pub right next to Mr. Muffler. That was a donut, Mr. Donut shop. We lived in the apartments for a year. Came back home. I was thinking about this before you came. Got married, spent 5 years in Pierrefonds, and because we were spending 8 nights a week in Pointe Claire, I went on a business trip. I was expected home at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I got home at midnight, and my wife had already put in a bid on this house. So we've been here since 1980.
Were your parents still?
My parents were still living on the other street.
And Sandy?
In the winter, I can look into my old bedroom window.
No kidding.
Yep.
So your wife is from this area too, no?
She moved to Pointe Claire in the 60s. Yeah, in the 60s.
And you met her where?
I met her through Boy Scouts, scouting.
You were scouting.
I was
names,
in Rovers, which is the older branch of Scouts. She was in Rangers, the older branch of Girl Guides. I was involved with the Quebec Rover Council, so we coordinated and organized all kinds of events, winter, summer, spring, and fall, camping, skiing, outdoor activities, conferences, whatever. And one of the girls that I worked with on that committee invited my rover crew, and we were the Crown and Anchor rover crew, and we wore kilts. So we were invited to go to one of their socials, the Ranger. They were having a social, and we were invited. So we all went down. And lo and behold, there's little Sandy sitting off in the corner. Can't go out with him. No way, I can't go out with him. He's too old for me, and this. And then her family moved here, and I was Cub leader in Vawa, at the Vawa United Cub Pack, for 35 years. Her brother joined the Cub Pack, and she kept bringing him. And I said, there's no way this girl can have an 8-year-old kid. No way. Got talking to her and then realized, hey, wait a minute, I know you from there. And the rest is history. 50 years later, yeah.
Did she go to John Rennie or Lindsay?
No.
She was sort of finished high school.
She had finished high school by the time they moved here. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think you've stayed in the West Island? What is it about the West Island that would you say is the greatest area to live in Canada?
In Canada? Oh.
I know it's a broad stroke, but
Yeah.
from what you heard, from your perspective, as a son.
It's been good to me. It's been good to me, and hopefully I've repaid it with the community involvement and everything else, but it was convenient to live here, working downtown. You know the train is right there. 30 37 years commuting back and forth on the train.
Did you swim in the summertime? Were there community pools?
I don't like the water. I tried it. I don't like it. But in the days when we moved here in the 50s, we could swim in Lake St. Louis. There was beaches out there.
So, because now when you go down, I guess it's because they expand Lakeshore and it ate up a lot of that land. Because now that you can still walk, but it's no more than like 4 feet of walking space.
Yeah.
But did they just build up the rocks so you can go out further back then or something?
Well, it was landfill that they used, yeah, but Lakeshore Road is, that used to be a highway. Before the 20 went in. And that was the road to Toronto. And if you if you study it, you can see where the toll booths were at each end of Point Claire. There's stone monuments out there that they had. The local farmers would bring their produce into the village, and because they weren't residents of the village, they had to pay a toll to bring their produce in. So there were toll booths.
Do you remember being able to cross over the tracks?
Cool Breeze, Valois Bay, they were still open when we moved here. Or when I moved here, yeah.
Pedestrian and cars?
Both. Cars and pedestrians. Sources Road was a flat. St. John's was flat. St. Charles was flat.
And how would you get over to what was the quickest way to get over to the lakeshore? Was it you'd go on Cool Breeze and walk over?
I grew up with parents who did not have a car. So the shortest way for me was to climb the fence over the tracks, over the highway, and I'm down there. Or I'd ride my bike across Cool Breeze and stop at the Dairy Queen and then go across the highway. We didn't have the traffic that you got today. You didn't have the trucks on the road like you got today. So you'd wait, okay, there's an opening, you get halfway across, and then you get halfway across. A little harder at night, but...
What was, Donegal wasn't finished yet, was it? Like it was finished only until Cool Breeze or something, and then it was stone or
yeah,
dirt?
It was dirt road from Donegal to...
Cool Breeze?
Well, in those days it was St. John's Road. And the shopping center opened in 58. And I can remember us walking down to the shopping center. My mother didn't like it because you had to go by the terracotta brickyards. And that was a sight. People lived in there. Literally lived in there. The miners, they lived with their families in there. And because it was clay, it was the filthiest buildings around. The dirt, the dust, and everything. And the railway had a rail spur that they used to push cars in there and load them up with brick and then bring them out.
They lived in there?
They lived in terracotta.
I don't understand.
Well, I've got to find old pictures, but there was apartment buildings in there for the guys that brought their families out there.
What do you mean, apartment buildings?
It was like an apartment building. Really? I can remember seeing it, yeah. Like apartment buildings. And the ovens were in the back.
And your mom didn't want to do it because it was just like a...
She didn't like the rats that ran along, that were coming out.
Well, the dump...
And we'd see them.
The dump was
yeah.
not too far.
Oh, the dump is what is now Drake Avenue.
What's some of your fondest memories of the West Island? What do you think makes this place so unique? Or do you think it's unique?
Not being able to compare it to anything else, because that's all I've known. It has been good. When I was in Scouts, we used to weekend camp in Point Claire. We'd walk. You'd take your backpack and your sleeping bag and tents and everything else. We'd walk to what is Broadview and St. Louis. Okay? Now, Broadview went up to Brador. And Brador was the end of the line. There was nothing else, nothing. It was open fields and woods, nothing up there. Well, we would trek through this. From the end of Brador, we'd make a trail, we'd go into the woods, and we eventually figured it out that we camped for the weekends, periodic weekends, what is now the Trans-Canada Highway. We'd set up a camp, blow up cans of beans, and forget to poke a hole in the lid, and poof, they explode. Oh, that's neat. That's fun.
You don't have any supper left.
Well, that's how stupid these kids were. If you didn't know what to do, you learned pretty quick. The next week when we did it, you poked a hole. Go without supper that night, you know. You learned real quick.
So when you first met Sandy, that was all local? That was somewhere where did you go to convene? When you were,
Oh, that was NDG. We went to her ranger company, I guess it's called, in NDG.
And you did your scouts. What was their home base facility here?
Point Claire. The scouts, Cubs and Scouts was Valwa Park School, and the Rovers was the Church of the Resurrection. They gave us a room in there, and turns out that most of us went to that church anyways. They gave us a room, and that was our meeting room, and we could go there anytime. We all had keys to get into it, and that was our place of refuge.
Most of your grocery shopping and clothes shopping when you were younger, was it Valwa Bay, or did you Valwa Village, or did your mom used to go into the city in those days, or what would have been local shopping, and what would have been we got to go into the city now for this? This is before Fairview and before all the strip.
No, we didn't have Fairview. We had the mall down here.
But it would have been limiting, though.
Oh, you had Reitman's. Reitman's was in there.
Fifth Avenue.
There's a couple of shoe stores. I used to be able to name them all, but I can't remember them all.
Laura Secor was in there?
Yeah, Laura Secor, yeah. Lady that worked there lived on Michigan. Good friends of the family. She got tired of chocolate. Wouldn't eat chocolate after she worked in there.
That's a tragedy.
Yeah. And yet, working for Laura Secord, you could eat as much chocolate as you wanted. First few weeks, I'll eat this, I'll eat that. After that, no, enough was enough.
So your parents
would
have been clothes shopping in the mall?
I don't remember.
And grocery shopping would have been Steinberg's?
It was A&P first.
Over in the village?
In Vawa.
Yeah.
Which is now Fraser, or the Fraser Sports. It's not Fraser anymore, but that was A&P.
That building goes back to the 50s?
Yeah.
No kidding. The two of them?
Yep. Owned by the same guy.
I didn't know it goes back.
Yeah.
What about where the Music Quest? That's that building there.
That went up later. That came in later. Yeah, a lot later.
So they just renovated that A&P building.
But the A&P was there.
Photoco was there too at one point.
Photoco, and that's where my oldest son used to work. Next door, they had Vawa Video or Video Vision or Vawa Video or something. Yeah. That's that. But Photoco was there was a. It was more of a gift and toy, or not toy, but gift shop. You could get cards, you could get ornaments, small china stuff and that kind of stuff. Yeah, there was we were told to be very careful in that store. Yes.
And what about music in those days? Was music big? Were you big into music in those days?
Not as a teenager, at younger age. As I got older, I started to get into it.
Who would have been your guys, let's say high school, mid-late high school?
I liked the Beach Boys. I liked Roy Orbison. I was working summers. I got involved with some Maritimers who introduced me to country and western. So I liked country and western for a long time, still do.
Was it were they into Canadian artists, or was it the one from the?
Nah, it was basic. Well, you had a few Canadian artists, but not that many
No.
in country and western. But most of them were from the Maritimes.
Mm-hmm.
The Maritimes were big in the country and western. It's actually, you go all across Canada, you hear country and western. Come to Montreal, right? You got to find it. You got to really look for it.
Any last thoughts on what it's like growing up in the West Island?
Well,
Because you raised a family here. You decided to raise a
yeah,
family.
I raised a family. Yeah, yeah,
And your son went to the same high school you went to. Both of them.
both of them, both of them.
Both sons, both schools.
They both went to Vowell Park too. Yeah, both kids went to Lindsay and Rennie. So, yep, they followed. They followed.
It's crazy. It's like we never thought that we would still be here. You know, I don't think we had any of us imagined that we would still be in the West Island.
It's true. I'm involved with Point Claire Old Timers hockey, and I see some of these kids coming in at 40, 45, and I look at them and I say, holy crap, I remember you when you were 8 years old in my Cub Pack. And then they bring their 8-year-old. Wow. Yep. Some of these guys, like I said, I can walk in Vawa or in the village and the mall, and kids, 45-year-old guys will come up to me, Akela. You know, they'll call me by the name I used in Cubs. Akela.
Kayla?
Akela.
What's that? Is that an Indian name?
No, it's Rudyard Kipling, The Jungle Book.
Oh, yeah.
Akela was the old gray wolf. The old gray wolf. Yeah. 20 years old, running a Cub Pack, 35, 50 kids. Take them away every year. They loved it. Except the time we went one weekend, we were celebrating, I think it was our 15th year that we've done this. And one of my assistants worked for Chenoise. So he said, look, leave all the food to me. He brought up pounds of smoked meat, pounds, loaves of rye bread, pickles, coleslaw, everything. So we didn't tell the kids. We start preparing lunch, Saturday at lunch. One of the rules I had was nobody eats until everybody is sitting at the table. And I used to yell, number off. I knew I had 36 kids with me. And I'd listen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'd go down the line, 36 kids. Okay, let's serve them. Out come the paper plates, and away we go. We dropped 36 smoked meat sandwiches, potato chips, coleslaw, pickles for them. One kid says, what's this? And out of the blue, somebody yells, horse meat. 35 kids left the table, scrambled, left. Where'd they gone? Where'd they go? They all took off. We're not going to eat horse meat. One kid sat and ate it. I said, that's not bad. Thank you. I've never eaten horse meat before. Now he's going to go home and tell his parents. Oh God, what are we going to do? I couldn't get half of them to eat smoked meat. So what am I going to do with all this? So the leaders had to eat smoked meat at supper. Smoked meat with fried eggs in the morning is great too. We actually came back with more smoked meat than what we thought we would. But those kids all remember that incident. Night of the Green Lady. Mm-hmm. That was another good one. But they all have something that they can remember. That was fun being a Cub leader. Teaching 8 to 11-year-old kids the good things in life. Yeah.